Hi everyone, my name is Lori Stotler and I am your clerk treasurer. I apologize that we can't be meeting in person today, but the good news is we've been seeing 1,000 voters per day in our early in-person absentee, and we just simply can't do both. So thanks for accommodating us today by watching this video. At the end of this video, you will receive the answer somewhere in between to these three questions, and this will be your sign-in. So please jot down this email address, cojelections@janesvillewi.gov, and you'll be answering these three questions. True or false? The clerk is in charge of elections on Election Day. True or false? Every ballot placed in the DS200 tabulator to be counted gets its picture taken, front and back. True or false? If a voter is struggling on how to vote a referendum, I can explain what it means to them so they can vote. So those are the three questions. You will get the answers throughout, and I just want you to be able to give the answers to me so I can record that you watched it. So some of you are new to this, and we just want to make sure that we have the right people and understanding what the compensation is. Obviously, if you're donating your time, thank you very much. That is taxpayer dollars that we aren't paying for, although I do believe that you should and could be paid for your work. If you work a full day at the polls, you'll be paid $120 per day. I know that's not much, and so thank you for your time, whether you're donating or being paid, because I know that it's not much. If you're working the 6 a.m. to 1:30 shift or the 1:30 to close, that shift work gets paid $60. And then any work outside the above hours, so if you're just working, say, 10 to 4, that will be paid at minimum wage. You must be a U.S. citizen, able to read, write, and understand English, be a qualified elector of Wisconsin, reside in Rock County, complete the enclosed forms. So you should have received some forms from me already that has a W-4 and an I-9, and both a state and federal W-4, and then an information page. If you haven't completed those forms, or if I don't have all of that information, that will delay getting you paid. So I want to make sure that we have the forms needed. And then you have to commit to attending a training session prior to each election. So we're going to go over a little bit about preparing to serve. So make sure you know your assignment. Most of you will be either working an AM shift, which is from 6 a.m. to 1:30, a PM shift, which is 1:30 to close, or all day, which is 6 a.m. to close. Now the polls close at 8 o'clock, but we still have to count the ballots. Just real quick, we need to sort them by ward, run through to make sure that there are no registered write-ins, and then make sure that there's a proper number of ballots in the machine before we bag them and secure them in their bags. I do need everybody to show up on time. This is one of those things that doesn't work unless you're on time. I can tell you at the library, there is one door that you show up in, which is, it's a steel door just inside the garage. And if you're late, you might not be able to get in because they go upstairs and they start setting up. So I do need you to show up on time. So if your shift starts at 6, be there at 5:55. If your shift starts at 1:30, be there at 1:25. If you're going to be late, you do need to let your chief inspector know that you're going to be late. And if you're not going to be able to work your shift, I also need you to tell us that. This is an all hands on deck election. We're going to get it right. We're going to do it once, and we're going to be able to show our work. This screen, it's cute, you know, check your politics at the door, but I will tell you, in the August election and then the April election, unfortunately, I had many complaints about workers who, maybe unintentionally, but nonetheless, I had complaints of workers who were talking politics and even insinuating politics. Those little side comments get picked up and they get reported back. This is very, very important. I know you're as passionate about elections as I am, or you wouldn't be serving. And, you know, we all have a side. Some of us are not Democrats. Some of us are not Republicans. Some of us are independents, libertarians. Regardless of what you are and who you're voting for, this is a non-partisan building that you're going into, and you do not have any right to discuss politics or electioneer inside that building. So if I sit on this slide for 40 minutes and you learn nothing else today, you are not allowed to electioneer or make your little side comments or innuendos that is going to point elections to one way or another. No presidential comments, no past presidential comments, no the country's going to hell in a handbag type comments. It is very, very important that we do not do any of that and that we keep this environment fair and neutral for every voter that walks in the door. Okay, enough said about this. I could carry on all day. I just really need you to understand, leave your politics at the door. And for just those hours that you're working, neutral, okay? Put it in neutral. You know, wear purple, blue and red make purple. So be careful about what you're wearing. If you've got bumper stickers on your car, take the other car, ride your bike, or park it way in the back of the lot. Your chief should contact you about meals. A lot of the polling locations do have buffet style meals in their kitchen. I don't get involved in the food, and the new constitutional amendment saying no private money in politics has impacted us here, where we can't even have businesses buying us lunch because that's private money in elections. And so disappointing though it may be, you guys can work out your own food. Wear layers. It might be hot, it might be cold. The old saying goes, in Wisconsin, wait 5 minutes, the weather's going to change. Sometimes it's cool in the morning when you first get in, and it is just blasting hot by afternoon after all the body heat gets through there. If you have specific beverages or meds, you know, you're welcome to bring those in a cooler. Keep those in the kitchen area or the break area. Don't bring personal belongings. So if you are a woman who carries a purse, please don't bring your entire wallet with all your credit cards to put, you know, under at your feet. Just bring exactly what you need to work that day. Okay, your beverages, your meds, your clothing. I do not believe that we will have slow time, so I guess I'm not going to expect that we'll have time to knit or read. And your cell phone is fine. Just be cautious about having any political stories or anything up while you're serving voters. Then wear the most comfortable shoes that you own. That is very, very important. Your feet will hurt. You'll be doing a lot of walking, moving around and helping voters throughout the day. So the goal to this is that you're going to receive the equipment from us. So right now we are very busy getting all of your signs and poll books run, getting the equipment ready to go, and then you set up all of that equipment and serve the voters, and then they want to have their I voted sticker when they leave and have a positive experience. And so, you know, if it was as easy as 1, 2, 3, we wouldn't need a 75-minute training to get it done. But that is the goal. We provide you the materials. You set it up and run it throughout the day. I'm here to support you in anything that you need, as is my team. The clerk treasurer's office has a team of 10, 9 full-time equivalent, and we are all hands on deck on election day as well. So we talked about arriving on time. I kind of briefly alluded to please park away from the door and leave close spots for voters if able. There is no electioneering within 100 feet of the polling place entrance. I have observed some trucks, vehicles around town already where, you know, they have their flags and they have their billboard in the back of the vehicle, and it is likely you will see those close to the polling places. If they're 101 feet from the polling place entrance, they can be there. And unfortunately, they can be within 100 feet of a polling place if it's on private property. We will try to do our best to make sure and monitor that. We do have some extra patrol out there monitoring as well. I know this doesn't need to be said either, but we need to show patience and respect for our coworkers and our voters, even when they may not show it back to us. We really just need to be modeling that calmness that we need to put back into our elections. Unfortunately, we didn't break the trust in elections here in Janesville, but it is going to be our job to restore that trust. And restoring that trust, meaning we're going to be patient. We're going to leave our politics at the door, and we're going to show patience and respect for everyone, even when they're not showing it back. And I'm sorry, as poll workers, you know, you are their neighbors and their friends, and sometimes they're not going to treat you quite well. And if you need to step away, if somebody really kind of, you know, beats you down, I don't want anybody taking abuse. And so if you need to step away and call and I come in, that's totally fine. I'm happy to do that. And I have officers on standby near all of your locations should somebody get unruly or do anything that needs law enforcement at the ready. So if you need that, you call us, but please don't give it back. Just step away. Don't let their behavior change yours. This is a messy screen, but I want to talk to you about what we think we might have here. So at the bottom next to my cameo where I'm talking, it talks about the polling place. We're going to have all 10 polling places open, and you can see how many registered voters at each polling place we may expect. Now, due to the heavy turnout of in-person absentees, and up on the top of the screen, you can see over time, you know, back in 2000, we had 1,800 absentee ballots total. By 2012, we had 7,500 absentees total, not just voted in person, but that was all by mail and in person. In 2016, that upticked to about 10,000. And in 2020, the pandemic really changed the landscape of absentee voting in Wisconsin. So we had 22,000 absentees, and we thought that number would come down quite a bit. But what we're seeing is we've already seen almost 5,000 in-person absentee voters. With another 3 days to go here, we could see upwards of 17,500 absentee voters that will be counted at our central count. So you won't see those absentees in the field, meaning you'll have about 18,000 voters to serve, which will reduce the strain on you, but it's still going to be a busy day because, you know, if you divide the 18,000 by 10, you know, you're at least going to see the 1,800 to 2,000 voters at your polling place. I will tell you the Rock County Resource Center, the library, and Blaine's, because they're larger facilities and can handle a lot more voters than the other facilities, that one's going to be hopping. And so I have tried to schedule so that you have more workers where you have more voters, meaning you can split your ballot tables by ward and move your lines a little quicker. I wish I had more Badger Book tabulators, but due to the amount of in-person absentees, I'm going to need all 10 of the central count. So you all just still have the 5 units. But if you dedicate 1 or 2 units to voter registration and the other 3 to check in, I think we're going to get this done just fine. Let's talk about some roles at the polling place. So the chief inspector, they are a designated person of the municipal clerk's office who has agreed to take on additional duties, and they are the ones who are in charge on election day. It's not me. I'm there to support you. So the chief and the deputy chief inspectors, so you usually have 2 chiefs, co-chiefs, and they get paid the same and are they're expected to do the same amount of work on election day, so that it's not so overburdening that they all quit, because it's a big job. It's a job I appreciate, and it makes sure that all of the paperwork gets completed, people complete their shifts, fill out their timesheets, open and close the polls on time, secure the ballots, and come back to City Hall. So these are the people you're going to go to when you have questions on election day, and these are the people that are going to reach out to me if you all need my assistance and support. Greeters are not technically election officials. Greeters are appointed by the clerk for high turnout elections or to serve a specific purpose at the polls. They're not inspectors and may not perform all of the duties of the inspectors unless they have taken the training and are are ready to go and fill in for other positions. Greeters, you don't need to talk to every single voter that comes in and make sure that they're in the right location or that they are ready to vote or have their ID. If the voter knows they're in the right place, let them get on in line. You can drive traffic a little bit, but we don't want to be stopping and causing a line at the greeter table. I don't want people standing in two lines. So as long as they don't need you to check on them or use My Vote, the greeter is going to have a mini tablet this election that you will be in charge of keeping track of, but you will be required to use My Vote on that, myvote.wi.gov, to check voters for the registration. If they get into the Badger book and the lines aren't long, the Badger book's going to tell them if they're in the wrong place as well. So, but your job is to just make sure that the voter has the information they need to be able to cast their ballot. The election official, which is the majority of you, also called poll workers, you staff the polling place, and your job will be throughout the day to check in electors, issue ballots, monitor voting equipment to make sure that it's working properly, counting the votes at the end of the day, and completing the required forms that need to come back to City Hall. So at the polls, we have 4 different things we want to talk about in this section. In this section, we'll talk about the ballot, our equipment that we're using, the law, and of course the voter, which is the larger section of this training today. So every polling place has a layout, and it's very important that you think layout as far as, well, how can we make sure that our voting booths have proper lighting? How can we make sure that our workers are safe and stationed in a place near an exit where if they needed to leave the building in a hurry, they could? How do we make sure that the voter can't grab a stack of ballots and leave? How do we make sure that the tabulator is secured in one area? How do we make sure that the traffic flows in a nice circular pattern so you come in one door and you go out the other? So there's a lot of thought that goes into this. So unless the chief inspector is asking for your input, please just follow their instructions on how to set up the polling place. They've had discussions with myself, with building staff, and with law enforcement to make sure that everybody stays safe. I guess while I'm on this page, let's talk about safety for a minute, because I know it's on everybody's mind. I have been with several law enforcement groups over the last several months, and on a daily basis I am getting feedback from our fire chief. We are discussing with our police chief. We know what's kind of going on around the country, and we are doing everything in our power to be able to make sure that you are safe on election day. We have additional patrol out there very close. We will have officers contacting the chiefs on their cell phones on an hourly basis to kind of get an idea of, sorry, my phone is ringing off the hook today, to try to get an idea of what is going on inside the polling place. One thing we don't want to do is station uniformed officers in a polling place. We don't want to send any signal that of intimidation or anything like that, but we do have officers patrolling and at the ready to respond should you need them. We also have had somebody from the Department of Homeland Security walk through all of our polling places to check for threats. They've looked at different areas where we could maybe move and make sure that you have an out should you need to just leave for your own safety. We are expecting throughout the country, and hopefully not here in Janesville, hopefully little old Janesville will be safe, but we are ready for people to try to tip over our tabulator. I will let you know that interfering with an election is not taken lightly, and you will not just get a hand slap. You will be fully prosecuted for any tampering with any election. But we know that there are people who may want to just cause disruption, right? Disruption is anything from maybe pulling a fire alarm, just to see if, we've got to shut it down or to call in a threat. There are names for these things, and we are preparing. And so I want to let you know that, I want you to bring only what you need to bring. I want you to dress comfortably. I want you to come in and be comfortable and know that, we have your back on this. So if you ever feel unsafe, never hesitate to dial 911. Don't feel like you have to call me or the chief first. If you ever feel unsafe during the day, I would like you to call 911 immediately, and we will respond. I'm going to turn my DND on. Hopefully that works. And so, yeah, if you ever feel unsafe, just leave the building. We will need to secure. There may be situations where we will have to move a polling place. Maybe a threat is called in. We can never stop an election, okay? So we have a contingency plan. So this screen right here is showing South Main Street. I am looking at the library. So should we have to close the library, we have a place to go. And I'm not going to tell you where that is, because we need to have places where we can pop up in secondary locations and keep the elections going and notify the public on the spot. We don't give away our secondary locations on purpose. So enough said on that. I hope that if you do have any other safety concerns, that you would call me and talk to me about them. But we have done everything, and we believe that the polls will be safe. We've been running in-person absentee now for 5 days. The voters have been very kind, very patient, and just very passionate. So I think we're going to be great. I think we're going to be fine. I want to let you know, on a safety level, we've got you. Let's talk about the ballot for a minute. It's a full ballot. This is a Janesville School District ballot. There's also a Milton School District ballot that doesn't have so much text on the back side. So the picture on the left is your front side of your ballot, and that's going to be your presidential candidates, your Congress, your Senate, your state assembly, district attorney, county clerk, treasurer, register of deeds. And then there is a state referendum question on the front. On the back side, you've got a color bar. That color bar is for the people working at the ballot table. Those folks are supposed to look and make sure that, they get familiar with the color bar and associate it with the ward number. And so you'll circle that ward number and initial in your 2 spots, ballot issued by 2 election inspectors. The color bar is to help you separate so that you don't issue the wrong ballot. This is one of those elections when I'm talking to you about issue the right ballot. This is one of those referendums that if you issue a Milton ballot and you should have issued a Janesville ballot, and that referendum ties, we don't want to be responsible for the reason why a referendum passes or fails. We want to be responsible for the outcome based on issuing the right ballots to all the right voters. So what does the referendum mean? The referendums, you have one giant 2-foot by 3-foot poster that I'm encouraging you to put inside the voting area to point to voters. So on that poster, you have the outcome of, like the reason and the outcome, like if I vote yes on this referendum, it means this. If I vote no for this referendum, it means that. Same thing with Milton, and same thing with the state. We can never help a voter understand what these means. The best thing we can do is say is if you don't feel comfortable voting on these referendums, you're not required to vote them in any elections. So if you feel more confident skipping it, that's your option. There is a poster on the wall I can point you to if you want to go read about it, but I cannot talk to you about any questions on the ballot. So in other words, when I tell you no coaching, it means I can't tell you anything about the referendums. I can tell you you don't have to vote on them if you're not comfortable, but I can't tell you what they mean or how to vote them. So let's move on to the equipment. You're going to be utilizing 3 different pieces of equipment that many of you are comfortable with now. If you're new to this, I'm going to spend a little time kind of talking to you about what the equipment does, what it doesn't do, how to get it going. I do have a little 5-minute video for those of you that are interested in learning more about the tabulator. So on the training page just below the slides is a little 6-minute video. It's going to tell you how to open up and turn on the DS200, how to clean it out and make sure that it's at 0, how to run your tapes, and how to transmit your results at the end of the night, and how to clear a jam, which we've had in the past. So on the left you have your Badger books, the e-poll book. It's got many names, but what it does is it checks in and registers voters. So they will digitally sign the poll book. We don't have signature verification in the state of Wisconsin. You will hear in the news throughout this presidential election about states that have signature verification. Most of them are all doing vote by mail anyway, and their signatures are tied to their driver's license. We don't have anything like that. You have the express vote, the ADA ballot marker. That allows you for your ballot in English, in Spanish, in Braille. It allows audio. It does a larger font. It does contrast. And we're actually using all of our machines during early in-person absentee voting on these machines so that there's only 1 fold on the absentee ballots to unfold when we're counting them, whereas if you have a big paper ballot, it's 2 folds. 2, this doesn't allow you to vote for more than the vote for amount, and it will take the voter to the end of the contest, give them a summary screen, and then print out their printed ballot. So it's just a ballot marker. It's not a tabulator. It doesn't maintain any results, and its security is based on having its USB locked inside during election day only. Without that USB data stick, it can't do anything without, and there's 2 sticks that go into each one of these machines that is a duo certification piece. And during election day, you only have access to one of the sticks. I have the other. And that helps to secure everything that's going on in these machines. The DS200 tabulator is an election systems and software machine, and it is a fancy calculator at that. And so what it does is on your ballot, if we were to go back a few screens, let me see if I can here. I don't think I can. If you were to go back and look at your ballot, it's got a border all the way around it with boxes. Then you're filling in an oval. So just like in the old game of Battleship where you would say row 2, column 2, row 50, if there's an oval there and somebody filled it in, that's going to be a hit. The machine is looking for hits, and it's going to give a point for every hit. So if it votes for Harris, it's going to give a hit. If it votes for Trump, it's going to give a hit. And then it's going to tabulate that. It's going to keep track of that on its internal calculator. This machine does take a picture of the front and the back of every ballot that is placed in that machine. So not only do we have data at the end of the night that's going to burn to the stick that is secured inside, we're also going to modem those unofficial results on election night to the county clerk to post on her website. We also have the paper ballots in the bottom of the machine that we are going to count and secure and bring back to City Hall. And on that stick, we also have a picture of the front and back of every ballot that was placed in the machine. The reason I'm telling you this is that there's really no way that you can stuff this ballot box with different ballots because it's taking a picture as it's going in. And so you can't really swap it out. In a recount, that would be so quickly discovered and found. We also use red pens at the poll so that any stray marks from what the voters are using in black and blue can be easily identified. So we had a lot of voters asking about using red pen at our in-person absentee voting. And the reason for that is just to easily identify what we are doing versus what the ballot is doing. Okay? So when the equipment fails, you can utilize user manuals to troubleshoot your issues. You have a short, easy to read, picture-driven troubleshooting manual in the materials on your cart. If you can't get to it and you've got a lot of voters, by all means, call me directly. Have the chief call me and I can be there within 10 minutes. For those of you that haven't seen me in the last couple of weeks, it might take me an extra few minutes to be bouncing around the polls. I had an unfortunate twist of my ankle at the courthouse a couple weeks ago, and it turns out I have an ankle fracture. So I'm in a boot and on a scooter. So it might take me a few minutes, but Darnisha or I, or both of us, if the machine needs to be replaced, will be there as quickly as possible. When all else fails, you do have the backup auxiliary bin in your DS200 to be able to put them in until we get there. We also have, for the Badger books, we have old school paper poll books where we can just pop out the old school 2 paper poll books, hand out the little tiny tally slips, but you're not allowed to go old school until we say go old school. But we do have that in case of complete catastrophe of the machines, or if we need to move polling places, we do have the ability to be a quick pop-up without machines, and we can go paper. We don't want to do that because it's less accurate than the equipment that we have. And I know that, you know, I know that there are people that just don't trust the equipment, and that's fine. But we use equipment because we know we can rely on it. So before the polling place opens, you're going to set up the tabulator, okay? There's going to be a security seal right over the barrel lock. And the chief has to check to make sure that the seal I put on it, or we put on it in our office, is the seal that you received the machine with, so that we can make sure that there was nothing tampered with between us bringing it to you and you receiving it. We check the ballot box slots to make sure there's nothing in it, and we make sure that the 0 count is there. Set up all your voting booths. We have brand new voting booths. So this year we've had voting booths, the same voting booths since the mid-90s, and they have started to really just not stick together. The light kits can't be replaced. I will tell you with the new voting booths that there are new light kits, and so the lights come out, it slides in with a cord, and they still daisy chain, meaning you plug one light into the next light, and then one cord into the power outlet, and they daisy chain together in a row or in a quad. And so the light kits go in the morning and they come out at night and they go into a kit. Same thing with the ADA handicap booths. They have these little leg adapters, and they're little black they just look like plastic garbage, but it's not. So make sure that they get to the tote, or we have to order more, and you know, that's a cost to the taxpayers. So set up all the new voting booths, make sure they're all lit on election day. We want to have proper lighting. And then again with the DS200, be sure to watch the 5-minute video on the training page. If there's a jam, I do in the video show you how to clear that. I show you how to open the auxiliary bin, and then no matter what we're doing, we're going to tell the voter what we're doing. For those of you who have not had a training with me before, we are very verbal about what we do in the polling place. If we're going out to do a curbside voter, we tell everybody in the polling place we're going out to serve a curbside voter. Her name is Lori Stotler and her address is this. And when we come in to put it in the machine, we are processing a curbside voter ballot, and her name is Lori Stotler and she lives here. We have to tell the voter what's going on. If there's a jam or the machine isn't working, we have to tell them the clerk is on their way. You're welcome to stay until she gets here, or you can put your ballot in the auxiliary bin and we'll be sure to process it as soon as we have the machine up and running. We did have a failure at the library and we were able to fix it, and there were people there, and you know, as long as you tell people what's going on, they don't make it up. Right? We have the inside track of what's going on, and sometimes we forget the voter doesn't have all those inside details. It's our responsibility to give them those details so that they fully understand what's happening with their ballot. They don't get to see it through the whole process. We need to make sure that they understand that it's in good hands and we're keeping it safe. Set up the express vote, that ADA machine. It's very easy. We make it so all you have to do is open the side, turn on the power, plug it in, put in the code, and it's ready to go. The Badger books take a little bit of time to set up, and so your chief may be contacting you to help set up Monday afternoon and do some testing. Make sure that everything is taped down and that any cords are Velcroed or taped, depending on whether you have carpet or tile or wood. We have to make sure we don't have any trip hazards because there's a lot of electrical that goes into this. You will get your username and login from your chief inspector. So if you are due to work on the Badger book, you must get your login from your chief inspector, and then you'll log into your terminal, and then you'll click on the open polls and select check-in voters. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Badger books in this training, but we want to just make sure that they are safely installed. There are little power packs in the cord that have 2 cords coming into it. And if those cords are not tight, you will lose power. So if a Badger book goes out and it just stops working, the first thing to do is follow the cords to make sure that your power source is still there. So this is what it looks like when it comes out of the box, the Badger book, the electronic poll book. And so you have to be able to put it together. And there is a picture book in the very top case for you to go picture by picture, word by word. Very, very easy once you've done it. You do need to test print before the first voter. There is a test print page. And for those of you that remember the Badger book screen, in the upper right hand corner there's 3 lines, and I call those 3 lines the hamburger. And you click on the hamburger and go down to test print, and you hit that test print, and a test print should hit with your printer. If you don't do that before the first voter checks in and you go to use it and the printer's not working, that's not going to start us off with the most confidence for the voters. So we want to make sure that they're all working before we open the polls. Let's talk a little bit about what will the equipment do and what won't it do. It's going to check in and register your voters. It's going to record an assister, so anybody can assist a voter. You, an aunt, an uncle, a child, even if the child's under 18. We have a lot of Hispanic families in our community who their children are bilingual, but the parents are not. And it's perfectly fine for the child, if they can read and assist, to do that. It will record curbside voters. It will not give a curbside signature. If you're out in curbside, we exempt them with no signature. It'll help us to notate issues with a name or things that you need me to know. You can put notes in for me to look at when the reports print out. And it can also help voters understand complicated ballots. What it won't do is tell you when voters are ineligible. So some voters are ineligible to cast a ballot. Usually it's because they are currently serving a felony sentence in the state of Wisconsin or somewhere else, or they have been adjudicated incompetent to cast a ballot, meaning a judge, not a power of attorney, not a special advocate, not a child who's in charge of an elderly person's care. A judge has adjudicated them incompetent. It won't record incidents, and you have a paper incident log at your station for a reason. I need you to write down anything and everything that happens. If you're wondering, I wonder if that's an incident, it's an incident, write it down. I don't care about the codes. I just want to know what time did it happen, what happened, who was there. These are very important things to do, and the Badger books won't record incidents. It won't record provisional ballots. So there are 2 ways that a person can vote a provisional ballot on election day. And we're going to talk about that a little later, but you never issue them a regular voter number, and that's all done outside all of the equipment. Their ballot never goes in the equipment, it goes in an envelope. So we'll talk about provisional ballots. It doesn't track observers. You have a special folder for those folks too. They have to sign in, show you an ID, wear a badge, have a special place to sit. It won't spoil ballots or remake ballots or issue second ballots. You have a special log for that. It won't assign a new address in the city until they are entered. So if there's a new build and a new development, and this is the first time that address is going in, we have to add that into the system. So you may have to add it in or tell us that it needs to be added in. And it won't check against a student registry. So we have UW Whitewater at Rock County and BTC students. We don't have a registry for them. I know in Beloit College has one, so it won't check against that. So they'll have to use the same standard to check in as everybody else. So you will be loading the Badger Book data. The chief usually does that on election day or on the day before elections. And so they get the stick from me. I don't burn the data until Sunday after we have all the absentees in hand that we can. We still will get Monday and Tuesday mail, and we will report whose absentees are there. You will get a checklist on how to set up the Badger book, so I'm not going to spend much time on these pages, but you do have a checklist. You also have a picture-by-picture book that you can utilize. So there's no reason for people to be afraid to work on the Badger books. The screen, if you look on the left-hand side, the screen has like a comment box. That's your script. And so that comment box is your script, and the green button is after you say the script and the voter complies, you hit the green button to go to the next page. It literally will walk you through every step you need to take in order to get the voter registered. At the end of the day, there is a video of the shutdown steps, and I will post that should you want to watch it and see what we do. But you will be prompted to close the polls, enter your credentials, and then put them on the data stick. You have to have admin rights to do this. It has to be done on the server, and it has to be done by somebody who the chief has appointed. This is a very, very, very important step to be done. That data has to come back to me on election night in a vehicle separate from the ballots. Material organization has been something we have worked really, really hard in our office to make sure that you have everything you need. And what you will notice this year, and I'm super excited, you will have a cart. It is a giant wooden cart, painted green, and it has all of your items on it. It has, you'll put all of the voting booths on it. You will put all of your totes on it. You will put the sign tube and your tackle box full of office supplies. And so everything goes on this cart. DPW wheels it in. You wheel it to the door. We come and pick it up. It's going to be very slick. I'm excited to get that going. And we won't be throwing our brand new voting booths around, so hopefully they'll last us a nice long time. These screens here, I'm showing you 4 different polling place ballot stocks. So we order enough ballots for all anticipated voters without ordering too many, because they cost about 35 cents a piece. And so we know that we'll have to recycle some if we have extra, but we don't want to run short either. If we do run short, we can use the express vote for some of them. So where there are lower numbers of voters, for example, in Central Christian, the third one down, there's a pink line that says, you know, there were 5 ballots sent to the polls. Those 5 are probably because they're test ballots and there's no voters, or maybe there's 1 or 2 voters. When you unpack your ballots, I need you to check those totals. So if we say, for example, at the top at the Rock County Resource Center, we sent you 1,075 ballot styles for Ward 8, I want you, you don't have to necessarily count them all individually, but count the packs to make sure you have the 1,075. If you don't, and then all of a sudden you don't have ballots, or they're not the right ballots, and you've opened the polls with the wrong wards, that's going to be really problematic, because the lines in the beginning of the day are really long. And if for some reason we packed the wrong ballots to go to the wrong place, we need you to check that long before. So that's why when you watch the DS200 video, you're going to see where the unvoted ballots are stored. That's going to be the first box that you open when you start setting up your polls. For those of you who haven't worked elections under mine and Darnisha's leadership, you'll realize we're very type A and organized. And this screen shows you all the tasks lists. So never be afraid to jump in and help, because everything that we assign you to has a 1-page what to do. We'll give you the supplies and the task list. You'll go to your station and you'll just follow the step by step. So even though this training may not go through everything that you need to have in order, that we haven't said it out loud, it's in these tasks list, and you usually are paired up with somebody who has experience. Experienced poll workers are great to learn from, but don't just take their word for it. You look at the task list and you can learn together. Before the polls open, we have a lot to do, and that's why we get there at 6 and we start at 7. We all need to pitch in. Many hands make light work. We post the required notices. There's actually 5 main posters because of the referendum, and so they need to go up on the wall in a visible location where you can point voters to. Usually I like to put them in like the line area where people are waiting, or near like the referendum one, especially near where the voters are going to go. And please, if you have like blue or green or a very wild colored tape for your floors and you're using that to hang the posters, do it with style and tact. I want our polling places to look as professionally set up as we possibly can so that we can regain that trust of the voters that we didn't break. Table signs, you have table signs. There are some acrylic signs now on your new green cart if you want to use acrylic signs to put something up for voters to see. Be sure to use the white painter's tape supplied to affix signs to the wall and the table fronts if you can. The green tape is usually for the floors, and it's usually just so we don't damage floors. A lot of our polling places don't want us taping the floors because it can damage the polish that they put on it. So you'll also be expected to remove any tape at the end of the night and return those to the sign tube. We want to make sure we're not damaging any walls. If something does get damaged, please take a picture, note it on an incident log, send it to me. We're borrowing these locations from our neighbors, our churches, our businesses. We want to make it right with them, so we don't want to lose our right to hold elections at their location. Polling places are really hard to find. They have to be ADA accessible, and they have to be available every single election. So even though a storefront might be open now, well, it might have a tenant in it next month. So finding polling places in certain neighborhoods is really difficult. And so when I harp at you about making sure that we treat it right, it's because we need to respect the buildings that we are borrowed for the day. Set up the check-in table with your tally slips. Now, if we have Badger books, you will use your printer, right? Set up your greeter table. Post your signs. Sign the Polis certification page in the Badger book. So again, up in the hamburger in the upper right-hand corner, when you click on that, it'll say certification. You click on that and then you sign the screen that you checked in and you worked there. You just have to do that once. And then it's done. Check the atomic clock for the official time. One of the things, this is an important screen. One of the things that is going to happen is we're going to have daylight savings time the Saturday night before our election. We've already tested our equipment. We've already locked in the data. We've already secured it in our cave to go out on Monday, which means your machines might not have the right time on them. And if they're not connected to the internet, and they're not, the time's not going to be right until the tabulator connects at 8 o'clock. It will reset then, but your times won't be accurate. I need you to use the good old cell phone with the atomic clock. Yep, that's my puppy Guinness, but you're going to use that time on the clock because that is an atomic clock to open and close the polls with. We will not be using the machines because of daylight savings time. Promptly at 7 a.m. announce, hear ye, the polls are now open. Have some fun with it. That is in the state statutes. I didn't make that one up, that we do need to announce that out loud as robust as possible. So pick your outgoing person who wants to open the polls. And then be ready for your first flood of voters. That first hour goes, it's quite fun and chaotic, but you usually start off with a bang. Observers must sign in, wear an observer label, and check in with the chief inspector. They have the right to view all of our processes, but the law says they are allowed to be within 3 to 8 feet of where the name and address is being announced. So that's at our Badger Book table, and there's not a lot of room around our Badger Book table. And so you might be tempted to say, we don't have room for you here. That's not okay. The law says observers can be 3 to 8 feet from the table. They may not interfere with the election. They may not engage with voters. They may not ask questions of you. They can only ask questions of the chief inspector or me. There is a rules for observers trifold in the folder. Every single observer needs to get one of those, because if they're not in compliance and I have to show up, we're going to use that brochure. I will tell you that sometimes 3 feet is just too close around the Badger books. And so I'm kind of saying give them a minimum of 6 feet away. If they don't want to be by the Badger books and they want to be over by the tabulator, that's fine. But they cannot be electioneering as well, and they cannot engage with the voters, and they cannot ask questions of you. They need to ask questions of the chief. So please accommodate the observers we've had in early in-person absentee, and this year to date have been very kind, very patient, and very respectful. And they've been assigned by their organization to come, and they're really going to be an asset to us. They're going to help rebuild the trust that we didn't break. Every single observer that has left in-person absentee voting has said, you have a great system here, you're organized, you're professional, your workers have done a great job, and your voters are leaving happy. So that's the outcome I want for the observers in the field as well. We're going to prove to everybody that the city of Janesville has nothing to hide. Cell phones, videos, and selfies. That's where it gets a little tricky. And on the observer part, sometimes you might see them sitting in their chair just like this, and maybe they are texting. But if you suspect that they are taking pictures or videos, you can actually ask them to cover with a Post-it note their camera. And if they won't, the chief or myself can get in there. If they're just texting, that's fine. They cannot make voice calls in there. In the polling place, they cannot take pictures or video. Voters can silently use their cell phones. They can take photos of videos of themselves if it's not disruptive. The law used to be that you can't take a picture of your ballot. Now you can. I don't recommend it. I also don't recommend posting it on social media under today's current climate, but as long as it's not disruptive, that is the rule. I will know if media is there. The chief will call me and say, hey, Channel 15 is here. They want to do this or that. Chief inspectors are allowed to talk to the media. I do prefer that you call me first and let me know that they're there. I am required to notify the city manager's office every time we have a media contact. So I need to know that. All interviews have to happen outside the voting room, away from where any camera can zoom in and pick up how somebody voted. So on election day, we're gonna balance 4 times. We're gonna balance the first time at 10 a.m. I'm gonna have a staff member call you, and they're gonna say, what's your voter count on your tabulator? You're gonna go over to the voter tabulator. Then we're gonna ask you, what is the voter count on the Badger book? On the Badger book, I'm gonna talk about that hamburger again. In the upper right-hand corner, just below the hamburger, is a count of the total number of voters that have been checked in by ward. We want that number, and those 2 numbers need to match. And if they don't, why not? Well, quite possible is because you have a ton of voters in the voting booths. And if you can count them and we can balance it out that way, great. If not, then we need to notate what's gone on. Did you have a voter walk out with their ballot? Did somebody leave a blank ballot laying around? There usually is a reason why we haven't balanced there. During the day, we just want to make sure we have the same number of voters as ballot. At the end of the night, we'll find out if the ballot table issued the wrong ballots to the voter based on our count when our tapes print out. But when we're calling you at 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 7 o'clock, we are just checking to make sure that our machines are matching. 4 o'clock is last call for ballots. So if you're working the ballot table, you tell your chief, hey, this is how many ballots I have left. Maybe Lori needs to get to the county clerk and have some ballots printed right quick. Don't wait till you're down to 50 ballots and call me. You know, I want to know when you're at that last, as soon as you've started on that last maybe 50, 75, even 100 in a election this busy, you need to call us. And then I'm going to say, do you have any absentees that need to be picked up? There's an envelope that the chief has. If a voter walks in with their absentee ballot and they just want to drop it off, we'll happily take it. And we will pick it up 4 times throughout the day. We have some runners that'll go out and do that. And then we will say, do you have any provisional ballots? And we're going to also talk about provisional ballots in a little bit. Forms and quick guides. Just like I provide the task list at the beginning of the day, I have provided several quick guides. So, you know, we don't have a lot of time to train everybody up in great detail and practice how to do a curbside vote. That's why these quick guides are out there. The chief has a master set of them, and then you all have laminated ones to utilize. So I suggest that you get the curbside voting quick guide out and put it at the Badger Book table or the ballot table. And then 2 people get very familiar with this. This is what we have to do, because there will be curbside voting. And if you want to assign a Democrat and a Republican that's on the worker list to do all curbside for their shift, that's fine. If you want to, you're supposed to send them out before you send out any unaffiliated. And you'll know because there is an R or a D next to their name on their worker list. Assign it right away and then tell them, get keyed up, get ready to do some curbside voting, read this. Use them often. There's lots of quick guides out there for every, what's an acceptable photo ID, what's an acceptable proof of residence, who can vote, who can't vote, how do we do a provisional ballot. There's a quick guide for all of that out there. So you have the tools, you just have to make sure you have the access to them and that you're willing to use them. These are more quick guides. The one in pictorial is, what can you accept as a photo ID? You will see voters coming in from Illinois or other states with an out-of-state ID. Those are not acceptable for a proof of residence, and they are not acceptable for a photo ID. I want to take this time to remind all workers of the difference between proof of residence and proof of identification. Proof of residence proves you live where you live and it'll get you registered. That doesn't mean it'll get you a ballot. Without a proper photo ID, you will not get a ballot. So very often I can get a homeless person registered without a photo ID, but then I struggle to get them a photo ID and then I can't get them access to the ballot. So I usually try to check that they have both. They're not the same. Very often, state ID, Wisconsin driver's license or ID, has the person's current address on it. Well, then that one document can be used for both. But quite often, somebody moves, the DMV doesn't want to update their address and give them a new driver's license, which means they have to provide a different form of proof of residence to prove they live where they live to get them registered. And then they can still use that ID that doesn't have the current address on it as photo ID to get them a ballot. So they are 2 different things, and you have quick guides to look through that. Your Badger books also have drop-down list, so it's right in front of you. You shouldn't have to scramble to figure that out, but you do have to get it right. You have one for provisional ballots. There are only 2 reasons why someone can vote a provisional ballot, and that is if they are registering on election day and they are unable or unwilling to provide you their state driver's license number and expiration date, or if they're already registered and they're unwilling or unable to provide a photo ID. We get it. It's kind of funny, but we do get a few young folks or people that say, you know, well, I had to give it to the bartender on Friday night and I left it there. Can I vote today and then bring it to the clerk's office when they open? Absolutely. But there are only 2 reasons why someone can vote a provisional ballot. So I don't want you all calling me on election day and saying, well, I have this person that they can't get here till then. You know, they moved here 22 days ago. Can they vote provisionally? No. There's only 2 reasons why you can vote provisionally. I just expressed them, and there are no exceptions. Use your quick guides. So we have other resources, and I know a lot of you call it the felon list, but it also has people who are adjudicated incompetent. So let's call it the ineligible voter list. Those are people who have lost their right to vote. And so all new registrations that are coming in on election day, and you're going to start whipping through them in Badger books, because the Badger book does such a good job telling you, go to this screen, go to that screen, do this, do that. But you have to check that book. Understand that the data you have in the Badger book is that of registered voters only, and felons can't be registered. So when you're registering somebody, you have to check that book for their name. There is a quick guide to that as well. If I see 2 errors in the field every single time that I come to the polls, it's watching people get registered and you're not checking the book, or you're not asking people to state their name and address before you take their ID from them. And so we have to get in practice at the beginning of the day, and then we have to stay in character, and we have to do this every single time. What is the incident log? It is the diary of the day. It can never have too many entries in it. I have backup pages, so you don't get just 1 page. And I don't care about the codes. There's codes on the back of it. You just write the incident, what happened, what time, and then the initials of who recorded the incident. Do we have to record 2nd and 3rd ballots for voters who made mistakes on their ballots? We do, but we don't need to do it on the incident log. There is a additional ballot log that the voter will sign for every ballot that they receive, and that is in the ballot table folder in your materials. Absentee ballots will be processed at the central count facility in City Hall. If you receive a walk-in absentee ballot, we will pick it up during our 10, 1, 4, or 7 stops. It's imperative, though, that absentee ballots get processed at central count and not in the field. Never process an absentee ballot in the field. And never forget to tell us that there's an absentee ballot, because we close the polls at central count at 8 o'clock as well. And if you forget, that voter's ballot may not get counted, and that is a red mark against us. Okay, we're getting there. Voters who come to the polls, if they have an absentee ballot in their hand, you will see in the Badger book, it'll say absentee ballot issued, and you will need to ask the voter this question: did you mail or personally return your ballot to the clerk's office? If they said yes, they put it in the mail, but they're afraid it's not going to get there in time, or yes, they returned it to the clerk's office, but now they want to vote in person, they cannot vote. If the designation in the poll book says absentee returned, they cannot vote. So, and if they're insistent on, I didn't vote absentee, call me. We will go into the back end of the system and make sure that somebody didn't check in the wrong voter upstairs. We've been seeing 1,000 voters a day. So if they're insistent that they didn't vote an absentee and that mark shouldn't be there, call us. Don't turn that voter away. If they say, no, it's right here in my hand, or no, it's in the car, or it's at home, you can go ahead and issue a ballot. That will be the ballot that they get to cast, and then the absentee ballot gets deactivated and canceled. The voter is responsible for destroying that ballot that is at home or in their car. If they try to cast it at City Hall on election day, they will be turned into the district attorney's office for investigation and possible prosecution. 1 ballot, 1 vote per voter. Voters are required to show identification in order to vote. It's the law. There's nothing you can do about it. And the rule is this: say it, show it, sign it. They're going to state their name and address out loud for the record. Even if it's your neighbor or your spouse or your sister, they have to say their name and address out loud at the polls. That's what observers need to hear. This is a part of the law. Sometimes it sounds silly. I know who this person is I'm checking in, but the only person who doesn't have to say it out loud is a confidential voter. We'll talk about that a little bit. But they say it first, then they show their ID. Once they say it to you, then you can take their ID. Be very, very careful. I have caught myself during in-person absentee voting. It's a hard habit to break. So say it, show it, sign it. They're going to sign it on the screen. It's not going to be a super fantastic signature, but we don't have signature verification. So say it, show it, sign it. Election inspectors are to look at the photo ID for 3 things only, and it's not the address. Once a voter is registered, their photo ID doesn't matter what the address says. You're looking to see if the name conforms to what's on the poll book. Does the photo reasonably resemble the person? And is the card not expired beyond November? It's actually November 8th, 2022 now. That is an error. It's not November 3, 2020. It is November 8th, 2022, which was the last governor's election. I don't know why the law does that, but that's the law. If a voter does not have a photo ID, they can go home and get it. That's usually the fastest thing to do, right? Go get your photo ID so we can count your ballot today. Or they can vote provisionally, which is a completely different process. Their ballot goes into a blue envelope. That ballot comes back to me. If they bring it to me before Friday, November 8th at 4 p.m., then I will count their ballot and add it to the tally. If they don't, then that ballot gets spoiled. If the voter wants to vote provisionally, just get the chief inspector. There's a quick guide. There's a folder of all the steps. Their ballot never goes in the machine, and you never issue them a voter ticket. If you accidentally issued them a voter ticket, you need to put it on the incident log. You're going to be off by 1, and I want that ticket taped to the incident log. Again, only 2 situations. They are registering on election day. They've had a Wisconsin ID or driver's license and they can't provide the number, or they're already registered and they don't have their photo ID. Just those 2 items. Blue folder, get the chief. A confidential voter is somebody who is exempt from the photo ID requirement. They show this ID card. It's probably not their real name. It's been assigned by law enforcement. They don't need to state their name and address out loud, but they do sign the poll list. And it's very important that we don't make a scene with confidential voters. Many of the confidential voters are running from abusers. And so we want to make sure that we can respect that. Out in Hollywood, a lot of celebrities can be confidential voters. Here we mostly have ones for legal reasons. So if you're working at the ballot table, this is kind of your piece. We've got I think about 25 minutes left to our training here. Issuing the ballot. The 2 election inspectors issue the ballot and hand it to the voter. You offer them their own pen if they want it. We have lots of pens from the pandemic still. There should be pens in all of the voting booths. For those of you working the ballot table, would you please be my cleaner people? A couple times a day, get up and get in your supply tote. Get the Lysol rags that are in the Clorox tanks. I don't know if it's Lysol, Clorox, it's probably generic. Wipe down the voting booths and the pens a couple times a day to keep our new voting booths from having ink all over them and from transferring germs. So, but they can have their own pen if they want to. They can use their own pen if they want to. I will tell you that our machines hate gel. And so I never, and I will not allow, I had a worker a few years back who went out and they didn't like my pens and they went out and they bought black pens. I will not allow that. You use the pens I supply. The pens I supply are the ones that I know the ballot, the machine will read. Please don't bring your supplies into the polling place without my permission. It's a very big deal to administering elections, and I provide everything you need, and if I didn't, then call me. The election inspector can explain the ballot to the voter but never coach, and so that you can explain that it's a 2-sided ballot and that when they're done voting it, they can take it over to the ballot table. That's about it. An election inspector can legally assist, though. If you see somebody that is, they can't mark their ballot, they are, maybe they're visually impaired, You can assist them, but then you have to sign the back of the ballot under the line that says, I assisted this voter. And then it has to be marked in an incident log. So we want to make sure that if we do assist, which is totally fine, you never coach them. You're simply reading the ballot and waiting for them to respond and helping them mark if necessary, and then notating that on the incident log and signing. We never coach. There are privacy folders available if people desire it. Most people, because of the ballots, just going from the ballot booth to the machine is just fine. Your unmarked ballots have to be secured as well. So that means you can never abandon that table. So there has to be 2 election inspectors at that table at all times. So even if one of you has to use the restroom, don't pre-sign 25 ballots and then go to the restroom, because that is potentially 25 live ballots with one person's access to. And it's not that I don't trust you. I trust every single one of you, or I wouldn't have put you on the schedule. But we need to be securing unmarked and marked ballots at all times. So if you need to use the restroom or go take a break, you get a replacement, have somebody come in and sit down in your stead. If the voter makes a mistake on the ballot, they just signed the voter ballot log. It is an incident log, but it's a special log for extra ballots. And they can have up to 3 chances. If they get to that 3rd chance and the machine is still not reading their ballot, that is when we want to encourage the use of the express vote machine, where it will help the voter walk them through it. If a voter cannot enter the absentee voting location or polling place due to disability, I want to let you know that we do have curbside voting. Curbside voting is not a drive-through. It's not because the children are sleeping or you brought your dog, or even me, who I'm in a boot. I would not request curbside. I would get my little scooter out and I would go in. But there are people for, maybe they have cancer, you might not know it. Maybe they have a immune disease, you might not know it. So please don't look at the people in the car and judge them for their reason for coming in. But I also want to make sure that we don't get to over accommodating voters either, and that if they can come in, they will. So here's what we'll do. There are signs in the curbside area, the handicap parking at your polling place. And it says curbside voting, call 755-3073. When the voter calls, they get us. And we're going to say, okay, what's your name and address? We will go into WisVote and look up that voter to make sure they're at your polling place and they're in the right spot. Then we're going to ask them if they've got their photo ID with them. Once I know we have vet them, I will call the chief and I will say, you have curbside voter Lori Stotler, who lives at blank address and has a valid photo ID, and I have confirmed lives in Ward 16. Please send 2 poll workers out with a ballot. And then 2 poll workers, and it should be a Republican and a Democrat if you've got them, never 2 of the same. If you don't have them, then do 2 unaffiliated. And so these voters are not required to sign anywhere. They don't sign a poll list. We exempt them. Once you get them done, you get their ballot in the folder that you take out. You tell them to hang on. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I got distracted. Tell them to hang on, and we're going to go inside and we're going to put the ballot in the machine. Watch the front door for us to give you a thumbs up. We've had situations where we go through the whole process of a curbside voter and then their ballot doesn't count in the machine. They needed a second ballot. They made an error. We like to make sure that their ballot's going to go through the machine before we have them drive away or their driver drives away. So the Badger books do record curbside voters when you check them in. The one thing I want to tell you about that, though, is that it's on the 2nd signature screen. So when you're checking in a voter, it's going to have a place for them to sign. You have to hit accept signature for it to come up with the assister screen or the curbside screen. And that screen kind of bothers me. I feel like it's in the wrong order, but the state would need to reprogram the machines. But I do want you to know that the Badger book does have a place to mark the curbside voter. If you can't find that, then put it on an incident log. As long as I know who voted curbside, that's all that matters. So you might have to spoil or remake some ballots throughout the day. So voters will spoil ballots in the polling place if they make a mistake, they vote for too many candidates, or they make a mark on the ballot that the machine doesn't like. We may have to spoil a ballot and issue them a second one. They can have up to 3 before they can't have any more. Those ballots have to be spoiled by just tearing the right-hand corner, the right-hand upper corner. Don't tear the ballot in half. And the reason for that, there's a reason for everything I'm telling you, is if and when I have to be standing in front of attorneys during a recount or an audit, I have to put all those ballots back together into one piece and set it aside and line it up with the log that you created, so that we have the same number of ballots as we have spoiled ballots that we say we issued. So that's why I say just the upper right-hand corner, then take the little upper right-hand corner that you tore off with the ballot and put it in the spoiled ballot envelope. If you have to remake a ballot because it's defective, it's likely going to be a curbside that drove away. We very rarely in the field do remade ballots, and I'm going to say to this one, rather than spending time training you, this is one where I will say get your chief. Your chief has remade ballots plenty of times. The instructions for remaking a ballot, though, are on the front of the envelope that you would preserve the original defective ballot in. So if the chief is not available, you can do it. The steps are there. Don't be afraid. If you follow every single step that's there, you'll get it done. So let's close the polls. We've kind of gotten through everything, and same thing legally. We say, hear ye, the polls are closed. You're going to close them at 8 o'clock sharp. You're going to have an end of line officer. Okay, anybody who is in line at 8 o'clock. And that's 8 o'clock and 59 seconds, not 8 o'clock and 1 second. It's 8 o'clock and 59 seconds. If they're in line, they get to vote. So that end of line officer is one of the workers who stands there and says, I'm sorry, you were not in line at 8 o'clock. It is now 8:01. Somebody have your atomic clock ready to be able to say this is what time it is. And then, if you need somebody to assist you, if somebody gets a little unruly, that is when we will have officers coming into the polls at 8 o'clock. So when you see uniforms at 8 o'clock, that is because the polls are closed and they're there to check on you and to help you get voters through the line and start wrapping things up. Ensure that all the absentee ballots have been picked up by City Hall for processing long before 8 o'clock. But again, the machine is programmed to print the necessary number of total tapes, but you need to sign the tapes. It might run out of tape too, and you might have to change the tape. So you cannot start this process and walk away. Somebody needs to stay with the tabulator to make sure that all of the tapes run on time and so that you can get out of there. Observers will want you to announce the results from that tape out loud. So once you have your first good result tape, that's the one that you're going to announce out loud. And then the screen on the tabulator is going to come up with a modem screen, and it's going to say modem results now. Hit that button as soon as you are able. As soon as that blue screen, it's a lighter blue screen, comes up to modem results, start it right away, because that's what the public is looking for. That's what we're going to get graded on, not the 15, 16, 17 hours we've been working. It's going to be, what time did the results come in? So you can see I'm a little cranky about that because I'm an accuracy person over time. But we do need to get those modemed to the county clerk as quickly as we can. Once those modemed successfully, it will say results modemed successfully. If it didn't, you have to try again and try again. We're all going to start modeming at the same time. So you might have to try again, but we need to stay with that machine. That is the machine we're going to focus on with getting the ballots out of there, sorting them. But we also need to have somebody making sure there's tapes and people signing those tapes. So you're going to hit the close polls button, and this is all in the video on the training page. You're going to hit the close polls button just once. It doesn't light, it doesn't beep, and it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes for everything to start moving. And then you're going to start sorting paper ballots by word. You'll count in piles of 25. When you're sorting those ballots, look for write-ins or notes, set them aside. Those will be a separate pile of 25. Those are the ones we're going to check for the registered write-ins on. You can tell the training we need to be done with this because I can't talk. So piles of 25 by ward, set write-ins, and anything unusual aside, we'll have that be the top pile that will count last. Review the ballots for discrepancies. Record write-ins, registered write-ins only. We do have some registered write-ins in the contest of president and vice president, and those are in the chief folder. You'll have to get that list from the chief, and then we record those by party in this election. We complete and sign the return sheets. You have a return sheet, a reconciliation sheet. You have to complete it it's one sheet per ward. And so you're going to say how many voters did we have in Badger Book? How many paper ballots did we have? What did the tape say we had? And then the chief inspectors are going to sign that off. I have to reconcile after the election. I have 30 days worth of work after you turn this into me, and I need to have that data in order to do so accurately. And in this election, I can't bypass it. It has to come to me. So please don't skip that step. It's called a ward reconciliation sheet. So please do that. Here's more on the sorting. Sort by ward, stacks of 25. Record the count on the reconciliation form. Go back and then put in any registered write-ins. Then we're going to bag the ballots without write-ins by ward. This reduces the clutter. Just get them out of the way. Then you can put the write-ins and the discrepancies ones on top. You're going to seal the bag, and then you need to have at least 3 people sign those bags. We've pre-filled everything else out, so the only 2 steps is you're going to sign the bag, seal the bag, and put the seal numbers on the chief inspector statement. Send the results, modem to the county clerk. I can't say that enough. Save your reports and results in Badger Book. Now we're kind of moving to the Badger Books. You want to leave the server up until the very end, okay, so that you know that we've got all the reports that we need. And the pictorial manual shows you exactly where to put everything, I've got how to wrap the cords, how to put everything back. It should not be an issue. Tear down the voting booths, place the lights in the light totes and the booths on the cart on the bottom shelf. Return items to the suitcases and totes and place that on the green cart. Remove the signs from the walls and the tables and any tape that remains and put the tube back on the green cart. Secure all the USB sticks. There's going to be a USB stick for the Badger Book, for your tabulator, and for your express vote. Give those back to the chief. They come back to me on election night. Sign all the paperwork, result tapes, and ballot bags. Before you leave, make sure the chief inspector has a partner to take items to the city hall. This is a presidential election that has all eyes. If even there are 3 of you that will follow, the ideal way to come to City Hall is this. One car has the USB sticks with the data. Another car has the ballots. If something happens, if there's an accident on the way back to City Hall, there are 2 different vehicles that can preserve results. Everybody leaves together. We're all tired. And I know it's a long day, but for every person that leaves early, it puts more strain on the people that stay behind. So please stick it out to finish your assignment. I see it all too often that people up and just kind of leave, and then you've got a small group of people that are doing a lot of the work. This is the forms as a part of a process. So as you're pulling things together, I need all those inspector statements and incident logs, the observer log, the poll book certification pages, all those ward reconciliation forms, the tapes that you printed from the DS200, the tally slips, the voter slips that you issued, ballot bags and voted ballots, timesheets and oaths. All of that has to come back to me on election night. Unvoted ballots can be boxed up and secured at the bottom of the DS200 and put in its secure closet for pickup on Wednesday. But voted ballots have to come back to me on election night. There is an end of night order of operations. When you pull seals off of machines, they get stuck onto the incident log. They get recorded. And so that's what this picture is showing you, is that when you peel the security seal off the equipment, secure that on the incident log. That way, if you forget to write it down, I have it and I can prove it when we're standing in front of attorneys proofing our election. Before shutting off the express vote, there will not be this sticker on your chief inspector statement. So you have to remove the USB. Don't fill out the express vote. Just remove the USB, give it to the chief, shut down the express vote. We're not going to continue to do this log. It doesn't help us in any way. So place the sign tapes in the blue security bag. The chief has that. Do not ever pull the USB thumb drive while machines are powered on. So I'm going to give you a tale of woe of an election not so long ago where they pulled the data stick out of the machine before they powered it down. The data stick became corrupt and the voters were stuck there refeeding. We had to restart the machine and we refed ballots into a machine deep into the night. So do not shut off or do not pull the sticks until the machine is shut off. Everything has to be powered down and a black screen with no sign of life before you pull those sticks out to return them to the chief. So we've kind of talked about this. Bring in signs from outside if you can. Some of the metal ones are heavy so they can stay on the big metal A-frame ones can be outside the building for pickup by DPW. But we did get some lighter signs that are a little bit like political signs. If you'll bring those in so they don't get stolen or taken by anybody else, you know, those were paid for with tax dollars. So if you bring them inside, we know they're safe until we get out to them. All items, make sure the chief has help carrying those ballots out to the car. And if you see anything suspicious, you know, I'm just being over cautious here. If you see anything suspicious when you're going through, it's okay to call. We have officers out on patrol. So if you feel safer bringing ballots out and calling a patrol while you load up and take off, that's totally fine too. We're almost there. So sign all your documents together and leave together, but not until after all the tasks have been completed. So when we get to return to City Hall on election night, we're not going to meet in the first floor conference room. We are going to meet in the Jackson Street lobby area. Okay, so come to the Jackson Street lobby area. The chief and the people will come in through Jackson Street, and that is also being done for security reasons. As we are closing down and setting up our absentee, I want to only have one door open here at City Hall. So you remember our second slide had some true or false, and you were supposed to email me at cojelections@janesvillewi.gov. And so the three answers are the clerk is in charge on election day. That is false. The chief inspector is in charge on election day, and I am here to support you all. Every ballot placed in the DS200 tabulator to be counted gets its picture taken front and back. That is true. And finally, if a voter is struggling on how to vote a referendum, you may explain it to them so they know how to vote it. That is false. You may not explain any referendums or anything on the ballot for that matter. We are a no coaching crew. We simply remind them that it is a two-sided ballot and that they are not required to vote all contest. That is all we can really tell them, and then we point them to the signs provided. So I've kept you for about 90 minutes. I thank you for joining me online. I know that's a long time to stay with me. And I know that you'd much rather be doing anything else. So thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for working this election. I look forward to talking to you and seeing you on election day. And, you know, let's get this one and done, right? One and done. Let's do it right the first time so they won't be coming back and asking for extra stuff. So stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you at the polls.